Okay, so let's kind of break down the process a little bit and give you guys a little bit of some information off the start of the video. So the item is painted up in the Duplicolor Filler Primer Red Oxide, and she's pretty much ready for paint. I did all my wet sanding and stuff so she's smooth. Now the reason why I use the Red Oxide Duplicolor Filler Primer on all my garage kit buildups is because I feel that it bonds better. It's easier to see what I'm doing with the kit for like sort of like prepping and getting ready for paint, and I like it for skin tone as well. But when I do my custom build-ups, where I break an item and I resculpt, I use the gray primer because it's easier to see what I'm sculpting and doing. But for most of my kits, the red is actually a good base for a lot of people. Whatever skin tone you're painting, this red oxide base is actually a good base for you. If you're the type of person that builds slowly in transparency, it's probably a really good base. Me, I'm more of a solid builder first, and then I do all my shading and transparencies later. So we'll kind of go over that down the line. So, colors to stay away from, at least will I stay away from, and I know probably some other people out there would say no, they would use these colors, but for me, I'm not a fan of it. So, you want to stay away from the color black, period. Just stay away from the color black. You never really want to use this much in anything, whether you're doing skin tone and African skin tone, if you're painting yellow, reds, or anything. I really never use any kind of black. I'm just showing the color black paint, so you just stay away from that. You never really want to use those colors at all because it will muddy up your palette, and it's just a nightmare to work with. Usually you want to try to use like browns, dark blues, or purples or stuff when you do stuff. Now we have burnt umber. You could use burnt umber in this process, but I stay away from it because it's just a little bit too close to black. It feels like this color is kind of mixed with like black and a brown. It's not like a blue-brown, so stay away from that as well. Also green. I personally don't like to use green in my skin tones only because I feel that when you start using green, it starts to become more zombie-like. And I know if you look at people in real life, you'll see hints of green, you'll see blues, you'll see reds, but I just stay away from greens, period, whatever kind of skin tone I'm doing, unless it's going to be like a zombie. My personal preference, but you can do whatever you want. But for me, we're trying to go for a specific look. So, if you're new to painting and you haven't really had a lot of experience with skin tones and colors, you can kind of use the African set that Garage Kit makes. They have light African, medium African, and dark. Now that's kind of a good set. It's a really great starter, but I think the only thing with these colors is they lack sort of that reds, blues, and purples into it. It's kind of a good base color system, but you still want to have your reds, blues, and purples set up. So we're definitely going to be using these colors here and there. Probably not all of them, but we'll probably use most of them. At least the medium. The medium is actually going to be a good base coat for her. But I feel that this medium feels like it has a little too much green in it, I think. So that's kind of what we're going to take away as we build up. Now, this burnt sienna hue from Golden, they don't make this color anymore. They have burnt sienna, but not the hue. But this is really a good color for a lot of my shading. I like this stuff. You can actually mix this up. They gave me the formula on how to mix it up if you don't have the old hue anymore. But it's kind of like you put a couple drops of like yellows and stuff in the burnt sienna and you can mix it up. But it's really a good color to do some shading and stuff here and there. Now, we have some P3 formula transparency colors. Now, they have a blue ink, which is very, very potent blue. Like, one drop goes very far, but it's kind of a good to have this. And then they have this brown ink, which is kind of like a darker, almost reddish brown. It's pretty potent stuff, too. But the main color we'll be using is their Flesh Wash. Their Flesh Wash is beautiful. I use it on almost all skin tones. I love the color. It's got like a very good reddish skin transparency to it. It's really good. We're definitely going to use a lot of that color, so we'll go on to that later. Then we have Transparency Bright Flesh, which is kind of more of a from Garage Kits. It's kind of like a orangey red. It's almost like a vermilion hue. So that's kind of like the vermilion paint that's great for like oil painters for skin tones. So we have that. And then we have Transparency Lavender, which is a great shading color too, because we need to use some purples, and I like that Transparency Lavender from Garage Kits. Now, also we have here, which might not use a lot. It might be more of like we put a couple drops in. This is Transparency Payne's Gray. Now, Payne's Gray is kind of like a blue bluish black transparency. If you overuse this, then you're going to be getting into that black area, which we don't want to do. Like if you were using black paint. But this is kind of a good like drop mixed with like maybe a lavender or a bright flesh for some shading areas, or maybe what like some of the burnt sienna hue. And we'll kind of go over that as well. And then we have bronze flesh. If we want to do any highlights, we'll probably mix some like bronze flesh with some burnt sienna. And, you know, we just got a palette here that give you guys an idea of some colors to use and, you know, just to kind of break it all down. So, like I said, I'm trying to break this down for all the guys I talk to that want to really get some good information on how to paint skin tones and stuff. So, the idea is we're going to start getting our base color set up with the medium African skin tone, and then from there we're going to start doing all our detailing work. And like I said, it's showing that picture in the beginning. We're going to try to capture that as much as possible. So I don't know how long this video will be. It might be 2 parts, it might be 3, or it might be just 1. We'll see how things work out. So the other thing too is what I got is a wooden block here with some 3 holes, and we're going to set her up on that block. And we're going to start painting, because I like to paint everything in one shot and have stuff there. But since this arm is removable and these parts are removable, I got to set this up so I'm able to paint this and this at the same time and not mess up. Because one of the things I don't like doing is painting everything up in pieces and then put it together and to find out maybe this one I put too much red on and this one over here I put not enough red on, and then everything doesn't line up. So that's one of the things to be mindful too. So let's get all this stuff set up and we'll start breaking it down for you guys, and hopefully we can get her looking like you know, the model from the beginning of the video, and hopefully it'll turn out pretty cool. Okay, so I'm kind of toying with the colors a little bit on the stomach. It's not quite there yet, but I'm just messing with it. So I'm mixing up some of this burnt sienna hue, some of the light African flesh, and some of this pale flesh. And then I put a couple drops of the flesh wash in it too as well from P3. But the flesh wash is going to kind of be later to kind of bring it all together. But right now I'm just kind of working out some of the highlights a little more. So I just got to kind of toy with those colors in there and kind of work out the highlights and just kind of bring it up a little bit more than just kind of having it flat. Okay, at this step with the colors, we got some shading in there, but right now with that light African flesh that we put onto it mixed with the other colors, it kind of made her look I guess pale, like almost like zombie looking. So we got to start bringing in reds and oranges into her. So I have a little bit of Garage Kit Transparency Pale Flesh, which is kind of a little bit more of an orangey look. So if you start kind of hitting these darker areas again, and you start bringing out some of this orangey look, we start pulling in more of that model look from the beginning of the picture. We're starting to get a little bit more like that. So you could just kind of go back around these darker areas and start bringing out that skin a little bit more. Might be hard to see in the camera, but it starts working a little bit more like that, what we're going for. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of hit it with a lot of this transparency pale flesh. What I might do too is I might mix in some of the bright flesh too, which is kind of more of a red. So if you mix in a couple more of the red drops with it, and you bring it in, you kind of start getting more of that look going, what we're trying to get. And don't be afraid to kind of mist over some of these areas that, you know, kind of like you're coating the whole area like in a transparency almost, and what it does is the orangey reds are hitting the darker areas and the lighter areas, and you're starting to bring out a little bit more color. So if you really wanted to, you could kind of almost do the whole thing in a sense. Because we're going to go back in and we're going to hit a little bit darker too with more of some of the transparency lavender. We might even go more with some transparency purple, and then we also got the transparency Payne's gray. So for right now we want to just kind of bring in that like that reddish brownish look to it. So we want to just keep popping that out. So I'm going to kind of work on that a little bit more, and then maybe then we'll start working a little bit more of a deeper shadows. Alright, so I want to bring out the darker areas a little bit. This is going to help me when I want to start to brighten up some areas. So I mixed in some Payne's Gray with some burnt sienna hue and a little bit of the bright and pale flesh. So I got a little bit of a darker color going. And what I'm going to do is kind of go over some of these areas and try to bring out some of these shades. Anything that's got like this little piece around. So I'm going to start bringing out some more of those darker areas like so. I don't know how well you guys can see that in the camera. It's kind of a cloudy day. So I'm just kind of bringing out some of these areas. So I'm going to go around and do all that stuff. So looking at the model on the picture, you know, stuff is still a little bit more orangey, which we got to kind of bring out, which we will do in a little bit. But right now we want to just bring out these darker areas. So when we do some lighter stuff, those darker areas should stay a little fairly dark. But yeah, just got to keep plugging away and just get these colors going. Alright, we're going to bring out some of the highlights now a little bit more. So I mixed up some of a couple drops of the light African flesh with some of the burnt sienna hue and some of the bright flesh and pale flesh. Kind of watered it down a little bit. So what I want to do now is sort of kind of bring out some of these highlight areas a little bit more. And if you feel that it's not that color, because it's kind of not like the model too much, we're going to have to hit it with some of the pale, the P3 flesh wash. That'll kind of bring it all together, what we're trying to do. So right now we just want to sort of bring out some of these highlight areas. So I'm going to go through that a little bit more. We're going to bring out some more of that stuff and make it pop a little bit more like that. Alright, so we're going to keep blending. So what I mixed up now is I have some Garage Kitsch, just regular burnt sienna. And I mixed up some of the Piece 3 flesh wash on it. So it's got more of an orangey tint. So now I'm just kind of hitting some areas. Just kind of letting the paint hit it. Kind of making it look more like that model look a little bit more. Not going too crazy with it, just a little bit. We're going to have to definitely go back in there and work out some more of the shadows a little bit. Now if you're not careful and you overspray this, you can make it look too orangey. So we want to just bring out some more reds pretty much in the flesh. You know, and don't be afraid to let the paint kind of just do its thing. Hit some areas. Can always be fixed up and reworked. So I think next what we really need to do is we need to get in the areas and really darken it up instead of with some transparencies. We got to kind of water down maybe some like really bluish purples. So I have a couple paints here of blues that might work. I think this color right here, this old golden phthalo blue, it's got kind of like a really deep purple into it. So I think what I'm going to have to do is sort of water that down a little bit and sort of start going into some areas really closely and work out some shading areas. Because when I kind of go back to lighten this up a little bit more, we might lose some of those shadows. So it's kind of good to have something deep in there now. Okay, so we lighten up the skin a lot. So right now we want to sort of bring out that orangey look to it. So now we have the Transparency flesh wash from P3. And I'm going to kind of just kind of go over all the skin. And it should start to bring it together a little bit more. Then what I'll probably have to do is maybe do some pale flesh around some of the areas. So if we kind of take that out and we do the orangey pale flesh, and then we kind of hit those areas, we start looking like the model almost. We're kind of getting closer to it. It's kind of hard to do it in like a 3D item to kind of match a picture, but we can kind of match as best as we can. So we're just going to keep going around the item and bring out those colors a little bit more. Alright, so what I did is I just got into the zone and I just started working out colors, shades, reds, a little bit of blues here and there, transparencies. I'm still building it up here and there, but I think the skin is coming together pretty well. It might be hard to see in the camera though, like I say. We got a lot of like, you know, blues in there. We got some of the oranges, trying to make some areas pop, some others go down. So this is definitely kind of hard to see, especially with this skin tone. So you figure what we could do is we could grab a bottle of white and we could kind of do it so you could kind of get an idea a little bit better of like where we're at with the skin. But it's still a little shiny. I have to kind of use some Tester's dull coat on it. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in the garage. I'm going to use some Tester's dull coat, spray it down, let it dry up, grab some lunch, relax a little bit, kind of step away from it, and then come back and then look at it and see what else I need to do with it. I think it's just a little bit of up around this area here is kind of what I need to take down, and some of the face a little bit. But I think down here we're looking pretty good. Definitely with the booty shot and everything's looking good back there. But I think it's just starting to come together. But I think because the paint's still kind of wet and it's kind of shiny, we're kind of not seeing what needs to be done. So I think dulling it down, letting the paint kind of like melt together with the Tester's dull coat, and then maybe doing a little bit of a flat coat on it just to kind of see where we're at. And then I could go back and change some colors and maybe bring out some more highlights here. Okay, so I pretty much got the skin tone where I want it, but the problem is sometimes when you use the airbrush, you're not getting the colors you want, or either I'm overspraying or I'm hitting areas I don't want to hit. So at this point, we're going to start doing some more fine detail. So I got all these women makeup palettes here, which is basically just charcoal that's kind of grounded down. Same thing as if you're using charcoal sticks, but here we got tons of different colors already ready to go. So I'm just going to start, you know, sitting here and just kind of putting some colors in certain areas around the face, the upper body, muscle areas, between areas like the feet and stuff like that. And then if I feel that I need to go back to the airbrush, I will, but it's just a matter of keep blending and getting to where you want it to be. Alright, we're almost there, still kind of just toying with it here and there. So at this stage of the game, it's just a matter of, you know, adding some colors here and there, maybe bringing out a couple other spots, darkening up some areas, and just kind of keep playing with the items, seeing where you want. And then pretty much once we start adding the outfit, the eyes, the lips, the hair, it all starts to come together. Right now, like I always tell people, whenever you do skin tone first, the character looks like an alien. And you got to kind of toy with it. So if you want, you know, at this point, grab, you know, like for the white outfit, it's going to look like we're getting there where I want it to be. If the white outfit's going to be kind of like an off-white, grab some of your off-white colors, you know, and go from there. If you have trouble with the paint and you don't really know where you're at, if you want, you can add like the white eyes for now. Maybe do a little bit of the white hair, maybe a little bit of the white outfit. If you really, you know, you're a little bit concerned about the skin tone. I'm kind of looking at the background of my wall with the skin, and I'm kind of liking where I'm at. But I think at this point right now, I got to give her a little bit more of a golden tint because I'm still trying to follow that artwork. And right here I have a gold toner from Garage Kits. And I'm just going to kind of do some misting of the gold toner on it in certain areas and try to bring it out. And then after that, I think I got to go in certain areas and really kind of take up some stuff. Some areas I'm seeing that are a little too dark or that need to be darkened and stuff. So got to keep playing with it. Alright, so what I'm doing right now is, since we're trying to bring out a lot more of those colors, I'm trying to look at the artwork a little bit more. So I'm trying to bring out some more oranges and some of the darker. So I'm going back with the transparent lavender. And I got my HBP Plus airbrush, which is really, really kind of like good for smaller details. So I'm just kind of going in with the eye areas. And try to darken them well. I'm going around the body parts too and start hitting certain areas too of muscles and stuff. So I'm going to kind of try to really darken up some areas so this way the brighter skin pops a little bit more. Okay, so I think at this point we're where I wanted it to be. We're as close as we can to the artwork. It's got that mocha skin tone, which I was looking for. But at this point, we're going to kind of like seal it up. At least just do a tester's dull coat over it just for now and let it cure up for the night. I always like to let my skin tones cure for overnight. I don't like to push my luck with trying to seal it and get everything done in one night. Just take your time. It's always best that way. Plus, it's good to come back the next day with fresh eyes and look at it and say, oh man, maybe I should have added more color here, or maybe I dulled it down too much here and stuff like that. Plus, maybe it'll be a little bit more sunnier tomorrow and I can see better in the sunlight coming in the window and stuff. And also maybe bring her into other rooms of the house, you know, with darker lighting near the TV at night, and just see how colors are looking to see if I want to change anything. But right now, I'm really happy with the way it's looking with that mocha color to it. Now we're gonna seal it up though once it's we're ready to. And what I like to do is I like to seal up with Duplicolor Clear Gloss Perfect Match paint. This stuff is really great. It'll go over the item really clean if you spray a little lightly and then you build up and you get a nice good hard candy shell around all this paint, because this is a removable item with pieces. You got these arms that are removable, the hands, you got the leg that goes in and out, and you got the swap out bathing suit area too. So you got to kind of make sure your paints are durable as much as you can, because if not, if you leave it now, pulling that leg in and out, you might scratch it even with your fingernail, because it's really strong magnets and you want to be safe side. So once you do the clear coat from the Duplicolor, it's going to be very, very glossy like a car paint. It's going to be super glossy. Now, there's a couple things we can do after that. We could flatten it down to the point where it looks like perfectly flat paint. There's no shine whatsoever, because right now we have a little bit of shine to her, so it almost looks like she's kind of sweaty. We could actually go that route too. So we'll do the Duplicolor Clear Gloss. I'll have a glossy, and then I'll talk to the client and see what he wants. We could do matte varnish from Mecha Vallejo, which will flatten it down to the point where it looks like you won't even see a shine on her. It will flatten it down to the point where it's crazy how much that stuff flattens it. And then we could do a satin varnish if he wants it a little bit more glossy but still kind of flat. It won't look as shiny as this, but it'll be kind of close to it. But if he wants to keep it a little bit sweaty like this, like she's in the jungle, then what we would do is we would just do like a flat top coat from Garage Kits over it, and that'll kind of give it back to the look like it is now, but it'll still have that candy shell of Duplicolor over it. So that's where we're at right now. And I think once we kind of add the bathing suits, outfits, the wrist guards, the arm guards, get the eyes, the lips, and the hair done, I think this skin is going to really pop out and really shine to where we want to see it. But right now it just looks very off because that's just the way skin tone looks until you start adding all the other colors in. So I'm going to go in and seal this now, and then we'll come back tomorrow or the next day when we're ready to seal this up and get it going. Okay guys, we're going to extend the video a little bit longer, and the second half of this video is we're going to paint a lighter skin storm, and I just kind of want to explain how this came about. So a while back I did a blade kit for somebody, and I painted up their blade head and everything, and they really liked the way it came out, and I said, and they wanted me to paint up their Savage Land Storm. So I said, all right, that's kind of how I paint African Americans, and I said, is that what you want me to paint up your storm? He said, yeah. So this is what I came up with. I sent him the pictures. He loves it. This is what he envisioned, and this is kind of normally how I paint up statues like this, because it's, you know, you got your more natural skin tone, you got your blues, your purples, your reds, you got the mocha look to her, and it feels more like Storm to me. It's kind of hard to see now until the outfit and everything's included onto it, but it should come together at the end. So what I did is I sent this picture out to the other guys that I'm painting up their storms for, because I'm doing like 7 of these. And some of the other guys were like, yes, I like that storm, paint mine that way too. And the other guys were like, no, I want more of a lighter skin version of the storm. I don't want it as dark. So they sent me a couple pictures. So I said, all right, I got to kind of come up with a way to make a lighter skin version, but without making it look too light and without making it look orangey or gray or greenish. So I had to kind of find a middle ground. They sent me pictures of like previous statues that were painted, like the XM Studios storm that just came out recently, the head, sideshow stuff, some Bowen stuff. They also sent me pictures of models. And the only problem with the pictures of models is, you know, when you're a photographer and you're taking pictures of like real life people, you're playing with the lighting and you're getting reflecting and all this other stuff, so you can get a picture that's really not looking like the person really is. And especially too if you mess around with it in Photoshop, you know. So it's kind of hard to get that look. So I had to kind of find colors and stuff to kind of capture it, but without making it look a little bit weird, kind of painted, I guess you can say. So this is what I came up with, a lighter skin version. So I sent this out to the guys that like the lighter skin version, and they said, yes, that's the way I want my storm painted up. I said, okay. So, you know, as collectors and, you know, artists and stuff, we always see things different. We always have different color systems, and this is what we want differently on our shelf. So this is what's going on. So what's going to happen is I'm going to stop the video. We're going to talk about the paints, and then I'm going to kind of just do a fast video on it, just go through it. And then at the end of the video, what I'll do is I'll take up all the storms. We'll put them in the photo studio, and you can kind of see the different gradations of colors, and you can see how things are looking. I won't have all the paint up done on these. I won't have any outfit stuff. Those will be final videos at the end when I'm done for each person, because, you know, people want different color outfits and different designs and different things added. So everything's going to look different, but we'll get to those videos down the line. But right now we're focusing on the skin. So let me stop the video. We'll get in closer onto the storm that's up top, and then we'll talk about the lighter skin version, and then we'll get that done. And then, like I said, at the end, we'll get into this photo studio, and I'll show all the storms together of all the different skin tones. And it's kind of cool because you can see like a nice gradation, and everyone's going to have something a little bit different, which is kind of fun about the hobby. Okay, we're going to go over the paints on the light version now. Basically, it's a little bit trickier only because I kind of had to mix up my own little bottle of the paint. I had to come up with something from all the pictures that I was sent, and you couldn't go too light because it would have looked off, and you can't go too dark, so then we'll go back to the first one I painted. So, kind of go over how I came up with this. So, one of the first things is, this item right here, this leg, is not removable. The next 3 that I'm working on, the people wanted only the loincloth or the bikini. So instead, they didn't want any of the seam stuff going on. So what's going to happen is I got to paint this up with the legs attached. So it's a little bit trickier, but it's definitely doable. It's not the end of the world. So the way it works is we're going to be using pretty much all the same paints we used before. We're just not going as dark. We're not going as heavy. We're not going as like... We're going to use only the transparent purples. We don't use any of that heavy purple, like or the blue paint out of the bottle. So this type of paint, thick stuff, you don't use on the light version. We won't be using any of the medium or dark African flesh. Maybe some of the medium in certain areas, but mostly not. It's mostly just mixing up your own kind of color system. So I came up with a mid-tone color here. You can see that it doesn't actually look like in the bottle because always paint dries darker than what you see. And the other thing too is I did a misting of transparencies on this at the end to get this color of light. So for this bottle of a mid-tone, what I mixed up is some Ryan Flesh from P3, and also some, Cardic Flesh from P3. And I put a couple drops of Bronze Flesh into it, some Burnt Umber, and some Flesh Wash. So I got to kind of mix up a little bit more because I got 2 more items to make of light. So I got to kind of mix up some more of that color there. So that's kind of like my base color just to kind of coat the item. Then once the item is coated up, you're pretty much going the same process with shading and stuff like I did before. But like I said, you're not going as heavy. It's kind of a little bit lighter. You kind of let the light of the statue from and the shadowing from the muscles and everything do its own little work there. But we have light African flesh. What we would do is kind of hit it with the highlights later on. And then at the very end, we'll be doing a lot of transparency work to kind of get this color of the light skin. So we have a lot of the gold toner, the pale flesh, the bright flesh, was it Payne's gray? We got also some lavender. We got some leather. And this P3 flesh wash is kind of like the main color of the whole item. This is kind of like the perfect flesh color to get into this thing. So like when we use some of this light African flesh to do highlights, it's going to look off. But then when you do this P3 wash over it and you get it like toned down, you give it like that golden look, that's where we're going to get at the end. So it's a little bit tricky. It's just one of those things where you just got to think to yourself, don't overshade the areas. Don't overshade the areas. Try to keep them as light as you can and still keep the highlights there. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So what we'll do is we'll start working on this. I'll try to explain as much as I can throughout it, and we'll try to keep it short too. Alright, so what I did is I did my base coat, and right now I just did my normal heavy shading, getting in some areas. It's kind of like transparent lavender with some of the burnt sienna hue, mixed in with some of the base color, and then after that I did a little bit extra burnt sienna hue in some areas. So right now I got to kind of take this down a little bit, so I'm going to probably mix in some other colors with the base flesh, sort of take it down a little bit, and then keep working in some shading. So we haven't gotten to mainly the transparencies just yet. Right now I'm just kind of toying with the base color. Once I sort of get it blended out, then we'll sort of probably do a lot more transparencies in it to build up some other areas. Alright, so right now we're sort of messy with this. What I was doing is I did some darker areas, lighter areas. I threw some transparencies onto it just to kind of keep blending it. The problem is what it is because it's a lighter skin, sometimes I'm thinking I'm going too light or I'm going too dark, and I got to keep toying with it because I have the other version over here, and I'm just kind of using it as a reference point to try and get it close to it, but with just a hint lighter, just a hint lighter than that one, not much because the client wanted just a little bit lighter. So what I'm just kind of toying with it and just gonna go. So right now I got it to where I kind of want like the base colors is. It's just still messy. Got to start fine tuning it. I'm gonna go in with some light African flesh now, sort of like semi-transparent, really lighten it up, and just start doing some highlighted areas and just kind of bring out some of those higher points and highlights, and then we'll dull it back down again. So it's just a matter of keep toying with it. Alright, so right now, it might be hard to see in the camera, she looks just like a tan female right now. There's really no, it's nowhere near this color right now. And this is kind of where these transparencies are starting to come into effect. So the P3 transparencies, I'm going to be doing like a lot of misting on it. That's going to bring a lot of it darker. And what's going to happen is that P3 starts to darken these areas as well as the highlight areas, and it starts to darken it all together. And it should start bringing it together. We still got to do more highlights and keep blending and stuff, but right now it's kind of just getting like a base coat, and the washes over there really kind of bring it all together. So just got to kind of toy with it. And then we'll probably still go back in and do some more transparencies and shading and stuff. So it's just a matter of blending, blending, and blending until you get it to where you want it. We did a lot of the misting on it, so right now I'm going to go in and start doing a little bit more detailing, try to kind of darken in some areas here and there that the airbrush isn't hitting, and just kind of play with it a little bit more. And then from there, maybe we'll do a little bit more highlights, and hopefully to start bringing it together and do some more detailing. Okay, so at this point, what we're going to do is I'm going to go in real quick off camera, do a little bit more transparency work with some pale and bright flesh from Garage Kits. Just kind of bring some of the shadows together a little bit more between the darker and the lighter areas. Just hit it a little bit more with that. And then what I'm going to do is do some women's makeup on the face area with some blush and some other stuff. Just bring out the face a little bit more, make it pop. And then I'm going to seal it up and leave it alone for the night. I don't want to look at it anymore for the rest of the day because I've been at this too long, and it's always good to come back the next day and look at it. Now, even though I have to paint another one light flesh like this, I'm going to do it separately. By doing it separately and not looking at this one next to it, what's going to happen is it's going to be a different look compared to everything else. So this one is actually a little bit lighter than this one, but not by much, but it's got a little bit different tones in it. So that's the good thing about doing each one separately. Even my darker ones, I did one, and then after I was done with that one, I put it down, and then I started the next one. So if you have them side by side, you can see that they're a little bit different. And that's a good thing about doing all these same statues, but painting them separately, because this way each one's got sort of a different tone. And that's kind of the good thing with doing this. So they're all going to look a little bit different by the time we're done. Hopefully I'll have them all done, and then we can line them all up in the photo studio and look at them. Maybe not all 6 will be done, but maybe we'll have like 5 done or 4. We'll see how things are working. And then it just gives you guys an idea of pretty much how to go. So let's get this one finished up, and then hopefully tomorrow I can get it sealed and have the rest done and finish off the video. Okay, so here's all 6 storms painted up. Hopefully in the camera you can see how each one is pretty much a different type of paint up and color. No two are pretty much the same. It may look like it in camera, but if you were standing here in person, you would see that each one is a little bit different. So this was a lot of fun because a few of them I was allowed to do what I wanted to do and kind of do my own take, and other people sent me pictures of how they wanted their skins painted up. So like I always tell people, if you pretty much follow the skin tone that you're looking to do, once you start adding in the outfit, the hair, the base, any bracelets, or whatever's going on, the character comes together. So right now, they always look like just blobs of skin and alien-like. And I always tell people that's kind of like just the way it is. But once you start adding in the rest of the item, that's when things come together. And plus, I mean, we all have all these items right now kind of probably look like an orange mess in the picture. But don't forget, we have red oxide bases now that are reflecting back up to the items. And then all the other skin tones are reflecting off of each other. So that's kind of like what you're seeing right now. But if you could, you know, take a Photoshop picture, or even once you get all these painted up differently, and then you put them together, you would see how everything else would pop out even more. So hopefully this helped out all the guys that I've talked to, either on YouTube or met at Jersey Fest, that asked me to do more videos like this. It's kind of just how I like to paint skin tones and how I see things. I know other guys out there might have different types of methods or colors that they like to use, but this is kind of just like my thing. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys like these types of paint ups? Do you have a favorite one in the series so far? Do you like them darker? Do you like them lighter? Like I said, I know if you look at pre-paint stuff like Sideshow, XM, Prime 1 and stuff, they usually have a specific color that they use throughout the whole items. And sometimes I like those, sometimes I don't. It all depends. It's all, you know, whatever you like and what you want on your shelf. I am going through them right now a little bit today. I started adding lips on them. I did do the fingernails and toenails. But hopefully in another week or two, we'll start popping up final videos of these. Because each person I'm working for wants different types of outfits and different types of paint up. So hairs might look a little bit different. Eyes might look different. The bikinis and stuff probably will look a little different. Bases are going to be kind of pretty much almost the same. Not exactly the same, but, you know, it's kind of just the nature stuff, what I did with the Savage Land Rogue. So those are going to look kind of similar. And then hopefully we'll start getting all those videos up, and you can see all the different variations as they pop up and get finished. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know which one's probably your favorite, if you could tell on the camera. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.